The information provided in this episode is provided for general informational purposes only and may not reflect the current law in your state or country. By watching and listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as legal advice and no attorney-client relationship between you, the host, or guest. You are advised to seek legal counsel concerning your legal question or concern from a lawyer licensed in your state, country, or appropriate licensing jurisdiction.
Hello, Texas. Good morning, Philippines. Good afternoon, Australia. And good evening, Canada. And of course, hello to all the Filipinos wherever you are in the world. I want to greet our friends also, viewers and listeners of Usapang Off the Record. Welcome dito sa ating show. Welcome to Usapang Off the Record. I am your host. My name is Aileen 𝘨𝘠𝘢𝘐𝑜𝑡𝑖𝑧𝑎n, and I'm an attorney licensed in the state of Texas and in the Philippines. And I am the managing partner of 𝘨𝘨𝑜𝑡𝑖𝑧𝑎n Law Firm based here in Houston, Texas. And of course, mapapanood at mapapakinggan ninyo ang Usapang Off the Record every Friday, 9 p.m. Central Time yan dito sa US. Of course, well, Central Time usually Texas, yeah. And also, that'll be 10 a.m. in the morning of Saturday in the Philippines. We are live stream via Facebook page and YouTube channel of Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy. So if you haven't subscribed, like, or follow, this is the right time for you to click those buttons so that you will be notified if there is a new show or there is an upcoming live show. Okay, so you won't miss the shows that are, that you can watch sa Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy. Yan. Kami rin ay mapapakinggan via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, ano pa ba? Listen Notes, and did I mention Overcast? Yes, of course, Overcast. Yan. And if you are joining us here, it's a live show. You can post your shout outs, greetings, or comments, questions sa comment box there because I am going to read them throughout the show. As long as you post them during the show. And if you have any questions regarding our topic for tonight, just post it there and I'll read the question. I will read your questions and I'll try to answer them during the show. All right. So don't wait for the show to be over before you ask your question. If ever you do have any question or any questions regarding our topic for tonight. Okay. Because I would really like to share knowledge and information because you don't know if you will need this now. I mean, if you may need it now, maybe not, maybe later on, or maybe somebody else whom you know may need the information. So, at least you can share something. And the good thing about this show is it's recorded. So if ever you forgot about it, you can always go back, go to Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy YouTube channel and Facebook page, and you can always watch the old episodes or the previous episodes of Usapang Off the Record. And you can also, view it many times. So it's unlimited until it's gone. Until it's gone, then there's nothing more to watch. But as long as it's there, you can always access it. All right. So that's the good thing about it. And of course, our topic for today. And by the way, I want to say, Kumusta Kiladtan Pusorobio? I always have to say that one because my sister is in Pusorobio, and I do have a lot of friends and relatives in Pusorobio, Pangasinan. Okay, so kaya bumabati ako lagi sa kanila dyan. Of course, our topic for today is actually a continuation of our previous episodes. We've been talking about estate planning and what will happen when the person pass away without a will, with a will, and also what's going to happen after the person passed away, exactly what will you need to do. So last two episodes we talk about interstate succession, which we where we discuss about what to do or what's going to happen if a person passed away without a will. How will the estate be distributed among the heirs? And so if you missed that, just go back to the all previous episodes of Usapang of the Record via Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy and YouTube channel. Okay? Now, we are going to talk about the opposite of, not having a will. We're going to talk about will. Okay? It's a will is like a household name already. Palagi mong maririnig na yan, eh, 'di ba? Oh, meron ka na bang last will and testament? You see this in movies. You hear this in some conversation online or some mga podcast maybe because it's important kaya pinag-uusapan ang will. Okay? And we showed last time in the previous episodes that the importance of what's going to happen if there's no will. So now we're going to talk about what's going to happen if there's a will. Well, part of it actually, because today we're just going to talk about, what is a will, because you need to understand what is this thing that we talk about. We always say a will. What is a will? So we're going to talk about who can make a will and how can you change your will if ever you have already signed it, you have already executed it, so it's already done and you change your mind, can you change it? So those kind of questions actually, we're going to talk about all those questions. We're going to try to answer them, and also what should you include and not include in a will. And the reason why I'm talking about this because when I do estate planning and I have people who are consulting with me, and they have this mindset that, okay, it is my will, so I can put whatever I want, I can give whatever I want in my will because it's my will. Well, yes, you can put whatever you want there, but just remember that there are some things that may not be enforceable. So that means even if you put it there, it's the court cannot enforce it because it's not allowed. There are some of this that you should not be putting in your will. Um, it's not like there's no limitation. Yes, I always tell you can it is your will, so you can put it there. But there are some exceptions, or not really exception, but limitations because of the enforcement later on. You can put it there, but the question is, will it be enforced? So that's why it's important for you to consult with an attorney who practices estate planning, who practices this kind of legal matter, legal service in your area of jurisdiction. Because again, as I always say in the show, uh, probate and estate planning, these are governed by state law. So it's the law is different in different states. So our law here in Texas may be different from there in California or Las Vegas, New York, and even the Philippines. So if you have any specific concern, it's always best to consult with an attorney licensed in your jurisdiction. Okay, so let's start our discussion now. So because I really wanted to share a lot of information, but we have limited time. So let's go ahead and start it. I have here a PowerPoint that I would like to share with you. This will be our guide in our discussion for tonight. All right. And of course, there it is. The first question we want to ask is, what exactly is a will? Yeah, and so, but before we start the discussion, I just want to. There's some very early viewer here with us, and I'd like to greet, read the comment, and of course, greet her. All right, there it is from Delia Ligot. Blessed evening, Houston. Hi, Attorney Aileen, watching from Australia. Yes, I know in Australia it's lunchtime, so I hope you enjoy your lunch while you're watching the show. All right. Okay, so let's go back to what we were talking about a while ago. Let me show you again the slide. So here we're talking about what exactly is a will. We keep on talking about a will, that is important, that is part of estate planning. It's a document, of course. It has to be in writing. So basically, well, all those are correct. We just want to be more specific today. When you say what exactly is a will, we're talking about a legal document. It is not just any document. It is an important document, a legal document, and if it's done properly and it has complied with all the requirements of the law, it can be enforced. Okay, it can go to court and make sure that it'll be enforced. And that's the process of probate. Later on, we'll talk about that, how to probate a will. Okay. The other thing that you need to know about a will is that it is not irrevocable. When you say it is not irrevocable, it's the opposite. The opposite is what? Revocable. That means you can change it. Pwede mong palitan yon. You can change your mind, right? People, they change their mind. We change our mind all the time, especially if your circumstances change. Like for example, when you made your will, you were still married with each other, with your spouse, and then you separated. Either you got divorced, or the other spouse passed away, or you basically not together anymore. So you can change your mind, right? You can change your mind, you can change your will. So that is why it says it's not irrevocable, which means it is revocable. So that's a good thing. And that is why um, here in Texas, we there is a joint will here in Texas. So husband and wife or the spouses can actually create a joint will. So when I say joint will, it's just one will for the two, for the spouses. But I don't recommend it. I don't advise my clients to make a joint will because of complications later on, possible complications. Just like when, like I said, if they separated, not they're not really divorced, but they just not talking to each other anymore. So that means the other spouse cannot change it. Kahit nagbago ang kanyang isip, the spouse cannot change it without the other spouse, consent, because it is a joint will. That is why it's always better to have your own separate will. Okay. And but in the Philippines you don't have to worry about it, and you don't recognize joint will. So all right, the other thing that you need to know exactly about a will is that it is not just about assets and properties. Because most of the time, naisip natin, ano, if it is a will, yeah, it's where you put how your assets or properties are going to be divided among your beneficiaries when you pass away. No, it's not just assets and properties that is involved in a will. You have to have you can put some other wishes there, like for example your um the disposition of your body. That could be another one, but we will talk more about that in a little bit. Okay, but it's not always just assets and properties. And you will know more about that as we go on with our discussion for tonight. So that is a will. Like I said, it's not just any document. It is a legal document and enforceable if it's done properly and in accordance with the law. Yeah, it has complied with the requirements of the law. It is not irrevocable. That means it's revocable, and it's not just about assets and properties. Okay, so and question is, maybe you'll ask, well, we've been talking about a will. Now we know what exactly is a will, that there are some requirements that has to be complied with, and that it has to be. It doesn't only include assets and properties. A question is why? Why would I have to do this? Why do I need to have a will? Well, the first thing first, in a will, there's a reason why it's called a will, because it is your will. That's what you desire. So it's the desire of the person, um that will be enforced when the person passed away, not while he's alive, not while that person is alive. The document, the will, you create it now while you're still alive, but it will be enforceable It will take effect upon the death of that person. Okay. Now, the good thing about having a will is you get to decide who's going to get what of your assets. So, you want to give all to your best friend? Go ahead. Why not? You want to give all your assets to your parents? Sure. Why not? You can put that one in your will. So, that is your will. That is what you want. That is your desire. So, you get to decide. That's one benefit of having a will. You're not allowing Texas to make a decision uh, when it comes to the distribution of your asset or estate when you pass away. The other thing is, you can also designate a person who will manage your estate when you pass away. And we call this person an executor, or if it's a an executor or an executrix. That's the executor is the person who's going to be managing your estate, who's going to go to the court and have your will probated, be appointed by the court as the executor of your will, and make sure that the wishes that you put in your will be followed. That is your executor. And you get to choose that person. But if you didn't put the name of the executor there in your will, it's okay. Your will still valid, but somebody will have to apply to be an administrator of your estate, because somebody has to manage your estate. It's not gonna happen on its own. Your estate will not be distributed to your beneficiaries on its own. There has to be somebody who's going to do that, and that will be your administrator, executor or administrator of your estate. Okay? And also, this is what ito yung ano lagi kong sinasabi. You can spare your loved ones if you have a will. You can spare your loved ones from the stress of settling your estate. Kasi syempre, if you pass away, you leave your loved ones, they're grieving, they're mourning, and then they still have to deal with your assets, your estate, just like what we have discussed during the interstate succession episodes. So you can spare them from going through the process of determining the heirs and then applying for an administrator and having this interstate succession distribution. So you can spare them from that, because you can simplify the distribution of your estate on your will. Okay. So that's a good thing about having a will. And also, if you have children, it's important that you have a will, because you can um, actually appoint a legal guardian or representative for your children in your will when you pass away. Because, the children, if the other parent is no longer available, it's good if the other parent is still, alive, but the other parent can step in. But if both of you are gone, who's going to take care of your children? So you can appoint a guardian there on your will. But of course, it's not like automatic. It still have to be. There's still a process to be done in court. But at least you can appoint the person whom you trust to take care of your children. So that's another benefit of having a will. There's more, but I just want to talk about this. Who can make a will? Well, actually, if you have a legal capacity to enter into a contract, you can make a will. So if you're 14 years old, no, you cannot make a will yet in Texas, because you are not yet legally capacitated to enter into any contract. So you can't make a will yet. But you can be a witness in a execution of a will. So that's what I always tell them. How we need two witnesses in Texas. So when you make your will, you'll have to sign it in front of the two witnesses and a notary public, and the witnesses could be at least 14 years old, witness, but not the one who's making the will. You have to be at least 18 years old here in Texas. And of course, um, you have to have a legal capacity to do it. Uh, yes, you are 18 years old, but you have mental problem, illness, or maybe you are incapacitated. You're uh, unconscious, or you have to have a legal capacity to make that will at the time you were executing the will. So that is why during execution of the will, when we are doing the will signing, ayan, tinatanong ko yung mga yung testator or testatrix in front of the witnesses to show na that person is capacitated to make a will at that time. Like, that what you're doing, that that you are making a will. The bounty of your estate. How much asset you have. What are your assets. Alam mo that you are at the time this making a disposition uh, of your will. So it's important that that you can establish the one at the time of your at the time of the execution of the will. You know why? Because it could be a ground for contest later on. Kung merong unhappy beneficiaries sa will mo, or somebody was not named as a beneficiary in your will, and that person thinks that he should or she should get something out of your estate, you know, then that person may file a contest. That means challenge your will, and then titignan nila lahat yun. O that time when he was making a will, he's actually is not in his right frame of mind, or lasing siya noon, he doesn't know what he's doing, or there was a lot of he was coerced, mga ganyan. So that's why it's a very important that during the execution, hindi ka lang basta-basta pipirma dyan. Hindi basta-basta pirmahan lang yan. And also, ang requirement dyan is you have to sign in front of your two witnesses at least. Andun yung alam ng two witnesses mo that you are signing your will, because later on, if they challenge your signature, then your witnesses can attest to that. And of course, in front of the notary. Hindi pwedeng pipirma ka ngayon and then dadalhin mo sa notary. Notarize. It has to be at the time you are signing, the notary public should be uh, um, can see you signing, or at least he's witnessing you signing your document. Uh, but of course, in the notary naman is that's the only purpose of notary. The notary doesn't even have to look at the content of your will. Ang kanya lang the reason for the notary is just to prove that I saw you sign, and that you are that person who's signing there. That's the task of the notary, the responsibility. Yeah. All right. So the other thing here is, what are the types of will here in Texas? We have, well, I already mentioned earlier the joint will, and I kind of discussed a little bit about that, which I said I don't really recommend. The other two types, we have the holographic will and the um, formal will. Okay, when we say holographic will, ito yung it was written purely in the handwriting of the person who's making the will. Purely, hindi yung tinype mo yung kalahati, you type it, and then pag-isip-sip mo, ay, mayroon pa pala akong dadagdag, and then you just handwrite it. So hindi pwede. It has to be entirely written by the testator, yung handwriting mo, because when we probate that will, we find we need to present witnesses who can attest that that is the signature of the person, that is the handwriting of the person who made it. But of course, holographic will, it's not required to have to have witnesses. Sa Texas, di ba, two witnesses ang required. If it's a holographic will, hindi kailangan ng may witness, hindi rin kailangan notarized. So it's just you making your will. Eh, ang dali naman pala, sabihin mo, no? I'm just gonna go ahead and just write it. Pero matipid. Hindi na, tsaka kung ano yung maisip ko, talagang yun ang gusto ko. Yes, of course, why not? Because holographic will is a valid will here in the state of Texas. The only problem with that is later on pagka we probate the will na. Okay, because holographic will is usually yan yung mga contested will. Why? Because, the way you wrote your will, the words that you use, may have different meaning to the reader, not necessarily to you. Your intention may be different from what you've written there. So that's why it's a rich source of contest or will challenge ang holographic will. So you have to be very careful when you're writing if you decide to do a holographic will. Okay? And and the other one, of course, is yung formal will. So when we say formal will, ito yung typewritten will. And of course, if it's a formal will, the requirement of the law is that it has to be, you have to have two witnesses, and it has to be notarized, because the notary public is witnessing the signature of the witnesses. That oh, they're the one, and of course the testator. So it's important that you comply with the requirements of the law. Otherwise, it will be invalidated and you'll have more problem later on, and it's going to be more expensive to resolve the issue. So you want to do it the right way the first time. So, okay, so very interesting topic natin really. I mean, it affects everyone. Sabihin mo, oh, I don't need a will because palit lang naman ng ano ko, wala naman akong properties. Ito lang bahay ko, ito lang kotse ko. Well, you have properties. So you have to know where your properties are gonna go when you pass away, and and in order for you to do that, you have to have a will. All right. So before we go to the next part of our discussion, I just wanna greet some people here na bumabati na dito sa atin ngayon, and let's share their comments. Okay, wait. So si Shell the Seco ay may tanong. Ang sabi niya, how much is the cost of a will? Is it expensive? Very good question. Kasi talaga naman eh. I mean, if you um make a legal document, and if you go to a person who says expert to make that document, you'll have to pay for the services, or there's a corresponding fee for that. And if the person is an attorney, you'll have to pay for the legal fees. Um, well, basically, depende ang sagot ko dyan, Shell. How much is the cost of a will? Is it expensive? It depends on your will. Sometimes there are wills that are just probably 6 pages. There are also some that are more than 10 pages. So it depends on what you're actually putting in the how much you are putting on and in your will. Like for example, on the document. Like for example, in your will, you can give specific bequest, right? Or you can also give general, yung residuary estate mo kanino mapunta. Madali lang yan pag sinabi mo, all of my properties, I want to give it all to my, let's say, your spouse. Let's say wala ka namang anak, spouse lang. So that's all um your bequest, or not really bequest, but yun yung um isa lang ang yung beneficiary na makaka-receive ng lahat ng mga assets mo. So that's what you put in there. But if you have children, you'll have to have provisions for your children. So lalagay mo din doon. And if your children are minors, then you'll have to add some more into your will to cover, let's say for example, appointment of guardianship in case you pass away and the children are still minor. Okay. And if you pass away, the share of your children, in mga minors pa yan eh. So they can't receive it. They have to have either a guardian appointed or a trustee. So you will make a trust within your in your will. So kaya dumadami and humahaba. So that's why it's not there's really no um like fixed as to how much is the will, and whether it's expensive or not. And depende rin yon kung saan kang lugar, kung nasa ibang state ka, kasi iba-iba yung charging ng mga um, estate planning attorneys na gumagawa ng will. Okay? And of course, like I said, depende sa dami ng bequest. Ang bequest yung kung mayroon kang gustong ibigay na personal property to a specific person. Like for example, ang dami mong collection ng mamahaling bags, yung mga mamahaling mong bags, and you want to give all of them to one person, or one for different person, so marami kang mahahaba yung listahan mo. Let's say you have a diamond ring and you want to give the diamond ring specifically to your cousin, then ilalagay mo din doon, di ba? Oh, and then you have, let's say for example, you have a piano and you want to give this piano to your nephew, so ilalagay mo din. So humahaba yung listahan mo. Kaya dumadaming pages ng wills mo. So, depende yon sa bequest mo doon sa will mo. Okay? Yan ang sagot sa tanong ni Shell. Okay? And Anna Barbin is watching. I'm not sure if you're still watching from Sorsogon, because I know she's in Sorsogon. Yeah. And and then see Emily got, hello, Attorney Aileen, watching here in Cavite. So, nasa Cavite ka pa rin pala. Akala ko you are, oh yeah, well, hi na lang sa mga taga Cavite, mga Caviteño. Yeah, Caviteña. Ayan. Okay, and ito pa, si Ana Barbin din. Hi, Attorney Aileen Ligotizon, watching with you from Prieto Diaz, Sorsogon City. Tama, Sorsogon nga. Ayan, may sagot yun. Sorsogon. Okay, so I know there are some other questions here. We're gonna answer the questions when we come back after a very short break. So stay with me, stick around, and I'll see you in a bit.
Hello to everyone from Roof Chamber Radio. I'm encouraging all of you to stay here, stay in this chamber. If you want to be inspired, you want to be encouraged, this is where it's at. And we're all going to need this, especially, in this new year that we're in. We don't know what's up for tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen next week or next month. But I believe that when you gather with people who believe in the power, the faithfulness, and the goodness of the Lord Jesus Christ, there is power in that in itself. So stay here. Stay in the Roof Chamber Radio. Be inspired, be encouraged, and let's all go through life, not on our own, and more than just with each other, but let's speak the faith, let's share the faith, let's live by faith, and let's walk by faith. God bless you all, everyone from Roof Chamber Radio.
And we're back. Nandito pa rin tayo sa Usapang Off the Record. Magandang gabi, magandang tanghali at magandang umaga sa lahat ng mga nanonood. Saan man kayo naroon, especially dun sa mga bagong tune-in pa lang. So today we are actually talking about will. What are the who can make a will? Sino ang mga pwedeng gumawa ng will? We talk about that before the break, and also what are the types of wills here in Texas? Of course, sa ibang lugar they also have the holographic will. Basically parang pareho lang. It's just that nagkakaiba sa mga requirements. So you have to always check your law, consult with an attorney in your jurisdiction. Okay. Ganun din sa Philippines. Yan. All right. So before we continue our discussion, there's a question here that I'd like to address. It's coming from Shell. Shell, sabi niya, where should I put or keep my will when it's done? So sa kanya naman, I don't know if she probably made a holographic will or a formal will. Ang tanong is where to put it. And that is not that is a good question actually. Because kahit na gumawa ka ng will mo, tapos nawala naman yan and wala kang copies, hindi mahanap. Paano mo ipaprobate yun? Nawawala. So, but that doesn't mean na baliwala na. It's just that it's gonna be more challenging and difficult to go to the court and prove that there's actually a will. But we can't show a will. There's no copies. There are no any paper or documents to show the court. You can still probate it later on. We'll talk more about that, but it's just gonna be more challenging, and you'll do more. There's more requirements that will be required for you to do that. So that's why it's important to where will you keep your will. Now, wala namang batas. There's no rules as to where you're gonna put it. It's up to you. As long as you know it's safe. Some people they put it in a safe deposit box sa bank. I discourage no I no not really discourage, but I do not encourage my clients to put it in a safety deposit box because sometimes when the person passed away, it's not easy to just open the safety deposit box and find and look if there's a will there. We still have to, in that case, and most of the time we have to ask uh, you have to apply for a court order in order to open the safety deposit box. Um, and then of course, yeah. Eh, and you can also put it in your, if you have your safety deposit box at home, you can put it there. You know, meron naman yung code, 'di ba? Lock, ganyan. Or any safe place where you can keep it. Okay? And gumawa ka rin ng copies mo. Pero just in case na wala yung original, if you lose the original, you can still go to the court and probate the copy of the will. Yan. So, but that doesn't mean na kailangang mag-copy ka at ibigay mo sa mga anak mo, sa mga beneficiaries mo, no? Because if you do that, if you give it to a lot of people and then you change your mind later on, papalitan mo yung will mo, and may bago ka ng will pero ang hawak ng mga anak mo or nung mga kamag-anak mo yung old will mo. So later, let's say if you passed away, then maraming mga will ang maglalabasan and then it'll just complicate the process. But it doesn't mean it cannot be settled, because you're gonna look into, of course, which one is the most recent one, the last will. Kaya nga 'di ba, last will and testament. Kasi yung last talaga, pero depende pa rin 'yun sa wordings mo. Because if the last will, let's say meron kang will nung 2014, 2018, and then 2022. Tatlo yung ginawa mong will over, your span of your life. Tatlo. Um, 'Pag yung 2022 will mo na-revoke because it didn't comply with the requirements, or it was rendered invalid by the court, then babalik sila doon sa ano yung susunod doon na pinakahuli, yung 2018. So kaya merong a little more complication there in the process. So, siyempre depende din 'yun kung sino man nilagay mong beneficiaries, kasi yung mga beneficiaries mo, let's say pinamanahan mo do'n sa 2018 will mo ta's tinanggal mo sa 2022 will mo. Siyempre cha-challenge na yung 22 will mo. So, that's why 'yun ang sinasabi ko na you don't really have to distribute your will to your copies of your will to, many people. Ang mahalaga lang, you keep it in a safe place. Make sure that somebody knows, so that when you pass away, they know that you have a will. And also, that's why you have witnesses. The two witnesses will say, "Oh yeah, I know she has a will because I was there. I was one of the witnesses." So yeah, that's another importance why it has to be witnessed. Okay, so all right, so let's continue, and then we're gonna have to go back to our slide. There. So here, let's talk about what should you include and not include in a will. We were talking about this a while ago, 'di ba? Like, ano ba yung mga pwede kong ilagay sa will ko, and hindi pwede? Because we said that, well, it's my will, so I can put whatever I want, right? Yes, of course, you can put whatever you want in there. But the question is, can all of it be enforced by the court? That's the question. So that's why we're talking about this. What should you include and not include in a will? So, una yan, you look at the properties and assets. Of course, di ba, I said you can make a lot of bequests. Like, for example, you have a diamond ring and you want to give this to somebody, or you have 4 cars and you want to give 1 car to your cousin A, and then car 2 to your friend B. So, yun yung disposition na ginagawa mo sa will mo. Bequest yun. Ngayon, may mga properties na you cannot include in your will. And ito yung una, or properties or assets. If let's, like, for example, I put the joint tenancy. Ang joint tenancy kasi, that means dalawa kayo doon na owner nung property. Let's say you bought a house, okay? But it's under joint tenancy with right of survivorship. So that means, let's say magdalawa kayong bumili ng property na yon. It's a joint ownership and with right of survivorship. So, hindi mo pwedeng ilagay doon sa will mo na, yung property ko, let's say bumili ka ng property sa, let's say, CTA, alright? So, ilalagay mo, hindi mo pwedeng magay sa will mo na, my property in CTA, I'd like to give it to my daughter A, let's say for example. Kung yung property na yon under joint tenantship, tenancy with right of survivorship. Why? Because ang ibig sabihin kasi once you passed away, yung property na yon will automatically, yung ownership doon, automatically mapupunta doon sa survivor. So let's say, ikaw at saka yung cousin mo bumili kayo ng property, yung bahay na yon. If when you pass away, yung cousin mo ang magiging automatic owner na ng buong property. So, hindi mo na siya pwedeng ilagay sa will mo kasi hindi mo na pag-aari yun eh. Once you pass away, automatic yun. Nasa kanya na mapupunta. So, you cannot include that. All right? The other thing is living trust. Of course, living trust. That's why yung mga iba sabi nila, oh, I'm just gonna have a living trust because it doesn't go to probate. And that is true because meron ka ng dinesignate na beneficiaries doon sa trust mo. Okay? So, hindi na yan papasok sa probate unless, of course, yung trust mo, ang beneficiary niyan yung estate mo, then papasok pa rin. So, those are just a little complication. But generally, if it's the property of the trust, you cannot include it in your disposition, in your will. Okay? Now, the other thing is life insurance proceed. Bakit hindi? Because nagda-designate ka na ng beneficiary mo dun sa life insurance mo. So, when you pass away, sa beneficiary mo na yon, hindi na yung papasok sa estate mo, yung property mo when you passed away. Naka-separate na yon. Automatic na rin yon will go to your beneficiary, whoever it is that you name there. However, if there's no beneficiary, then it will still go to your estate, pero you cannot, if you cannot put that into your will as long as if you designated a beneficiary doon sa trust mo, okay, or life insurance mo. Yeah. Ano pa ba? Well, it's not included there, but oh yeah, that's right, it's there, life insurance president. And then the other one, pwede kang maglagay, di ba? You can put instructions, as to what are your wishes doon sa will mo. But yes, I put here funeral. Although, yes, technically, pwede mo namang ilagay doon eh. Let's say, for example, upon my death, I want to be cremated. Okay, and I want my urn to be placed in our family mausoleum in the Philippines, somewhere there. Although, pwede naman yan ilagay mo doon. I don't really recommend that. What I do is I create a separate legal document, and it's the titled Disposition of Remains. You know why? Kasi if you are gonna put your funeral instructions sa will mo, hindi not until the will is probated, hindi nila pwedeng enforce yung sinabi mo doon in terms of your funeral. So, what's gonna happen to your remains? Maghihintay ba yung remains mo hanggang matapos yung probate? 'Di ba? So, paano kung natagalan yung probate kasi may mga contest? It got complicated, tumagal ng more than 3 months or naging 4 months pa, naging 5 months pa. Nangyayari ba yun? Yes, nangyayari yun. Even 1 year pa. So you don't want your remains to be waiting, right? So that's why it's important for you to have a separate disposition of your remains. That's why I put it there. Now, don't include the funeral. You can just actually refer it there. Let's say, for the disposition of my body, I have an independent or separate disposition document. So, yun, i-refer mo lang yung ginawa mong disposition of your remains, but not, wag naman doon sa will mo. Other things that you should not include in your will, nilagay natin dyan, conditions. Yeah. Yung mga conditions, ito talaga. Syempre, because some people, may mga trust issues din sila, di ba? So even parents, I will give everything to my son if my son will not marry so and so, yung girlfriend niya ngayon. Can you put that one in your will? Of course not. Or divorce. Pagka nag-divorce, divorce na ako, hindi ko siya bibigyan or something like, because or religion. pag hindi siya, let's say for example, sabi mo, oh, I'm gonna give her all of my estate if she will convert to whatever religion you want her to convert to. Pwede ba yun? Of course, no. You cannot do that. Because why? Sasabihin mo, well, I can put whatever I want. Can I? Yes, like I said, you can put whatever you want, but the question is, will it be enforced by the court? Of course not. So why include it there? You cannot really dictate kung kanino magpapakasal yung anak mo. Yeah. Totoo 'yun. So, hindi mo puwedeng sabihin, "Ay, nilalagay ko siya dito, hindi ka tatanggap kahit na ano, blah, 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 sa will ko." 'Pag pinakasalan mo yung girlfriend mo ngayon, 'yan. Kasi hindi naman ma-enforce ng court 'yun, eh. So, bakit mo pa ilalagay, right? Okay. So yung mga conditions na gano'n, let's say for example, when making a will, you can put there naman to let's say for example, to my sister if and when she graduates from college. You know, may mga conditions na nilalagay kang gano'n. The problem is, paano kung never siyang mag-graduate sa college? Wala siyang matatanggap, 'di ba? So may mga conditions na puwede mong ilagay, may mga conditions na hindi mo puwedeng ilagay. As long as the conditions are enforceable by the court, yes, why not? You can. Okay? All right. So, before we go to the next slide, let's look at some of the questions here. Oh, may question dito. Si Rusty Lopez. Hi, Rusty. Sabi niya, can I avoid paying estate tax if I have a will? Oh, well, good question. Well, the answer to that question, Rusty, is no, you cannot, because the will will not shield you from the taxes that you owed if your estate is taxable. Now, when I say taxable, because not all estate is taxable, okay? Like here in Texas, we don't have uh, estate tax on the state level, but we are still subject to the state tax, the federal estate tax. So if your property, Rusty, is, let's say, your total assets or total estate when you pass away is, let's say it's 13 million. And I say 13 million because it's over the exemption limit. All right. The exemption right now, 2022, is, I believe it's 12.6 million. So if your estate is more than 12.06 million, sorry, whatever is in excess of that is taxable. The estate tax will apply to it. So if it's less than that, less than 12.06 million, then it's not subject to estate tax. Kaya nga sinasabi natin, some estates are taxable and some are, non-taxable. Well, the thing, ang laki naman pala, I don't have that millions, so I'm not gonna be subject to 40% estate tax. Well, hindi mo rin masasabi because that law will expire in 2025. So, year 2025, babalik na tayo sa 6.2 million. So imagine mo from 12.06 million, bababa na yung exemption natin ng 6.2 million. So kapag 7 million ng pera mo, yung sobra ng 6.2 million will be subject to estate tax. So no, sorry Rusty, it's not. The will not save you from estate tax if ever your will is, taxable. Okay? But really, that's a good question. All right. And si Ana Barbin, my tita, she said, God bless you more, pamangkin. Salamat po. And of course, ayan naman si Rochelle, Ligot the Seco. Hi sis, number 1 fan here. Kaagwan at si kayo, Posorobio. Si Ren. Yeah. So, mga taga Posorobio ditan, tapos na ba ang panangan? Okay. All right. Ito pa, may isa pang bumabati. Emily Got Masantos na kaagwan saray taga Posorobio. On kaagwan lanatan ditan, right? Hapon na, ibig sabihin. May bumabati naman, good morning. Si Mirna Tampolino, may tita. I'm not sure if she's in Cavite. Ayan. Ito, sabi naman niya, yung sa akin, may karapatan ba ako sa ari-arian lang ang anak niya? Okay, so hold on. Let's try to understand the question. Yung sa akin, may karapatan ba ako sa ari-arian? Isa lang ang anak niya. Oh, okay. I believe you're talking about when you say siya, maybe the spouse. So let's say mag-asawa, tapos yung asawa, yung other spouse mo ay merong anak na hindi nyo anak. I think that's what it means by that. Well, depende nga. Ang pinag-usapan niya natin, kung ilalagay ka niya sa will niya, of course you have the right, so encourage him to, or him or her, whoever, to make a will para magkaroon ka ng karapatan doon sa property. Pag nilagay ka niya doon sa will na, let's say, half of the property will go to you, then yes, may karapatan ka doon because nandun sa will niya yon. That's what it means. Pero kung wala siyang will, then mag-a-apply naman ng intestate succession dyan. So titingnan natin kung ano yung sinasabi ng intestate succession law doon sa lugar mo. If it's in the Philippines or if it's in a different state here in the US. So depende doon sa kung kanino ibibigay according sa batas ng nung country mo or nung state mo. So yes, hindi ibig sabihin meron siyang anak, mapupunta na lahat sa anak. Depende yon sa situation. Okay? Pero pinakamaganda pa din at pinaka-the best pa din is kapag gumawa siya ng will. Diba? Okay, so, asan na ba tayo sa ating discussion? Dito na tayo sa, may question dito. I think it's a very important question. So let's go ahead and answer that question. All right, so si Early Dizon, matanong naman niya I have 4 dogs na Yorkies. Yeah, they're very cute. I want them to get all my assets. Is this allowed? Sabi niya. Well, it depends on the state where you at. Kasi here, if you're here in Texas, basically dogs are considered personal property. So if they're personal property, they cannot own properties. So it's not wise to put in your will na ipamanahan mo yung dogs, yung mga pets, okay? Because they cannot inherit. They're considered personal properties. So what's gonna happen? So ang magagawa mo dyan is to create a trust for your dogs. So whoever is the trustee, siya yung will take care of the dogs, pagkain nila, needs nila, alagaan sila. That's what you're gonna do. Don't put them in your will because, like I said, they are not capable of inheriting. Yeah, so the best decision is to create a trust for them and then appoint a trustee who will take care, who will manage the trust properties for the benefits of the dogs. Yeah, ganun din sa mga pusa if you have cats. Because I know some people, they love cats and, gusto din nila, of course, that when they pass away, that their cats or pets are going to be taken care of. All right, so there it is. Yeah, Len, I mean mo to. Yes, of course, I know. Ayan, okay, let's read this question here. 2012. Oh, I have a situation here. Let's read it. Okay. 2012, wife married testator. Okay. 2013, that means a year after, testator made a will and wife will get everything. All right. And then 2015, wife divorced the testator. 2019, the testator died. Will the wife get from the testator's will? Okay, simple lang sagot yan. Pag nag-divorce kayo, mawawalan na ng if you divorce, even if you put your wife, if you gave everything to your wife in your will, if you get divorced during the lifetime of the testator, and even if the testator did not change the will, the wife will not get anything because of the divorce kasi nag-divorce na kayo. So, wala na yon. Kumbaga, na-invalidate yung para doon sa wife, yung binigay mo doon sa wife. Yeah, though that's a good question. At saka actually, there's a lot more question to that one, but I'm not gonna explore more of this situation because actually there's a lot more situations related to that. It could be a one whole episode again. So okay, let's just go continue. I think this is the last slide that we have here. So how can you make changes in a will? Okay, like I said earlier, you can create your will, and the will is not irrevocable. That means the will is revocable. You can change it while you're still alive and you're capable of doing it. You're capacitated mentally. You can change your will. Now the thing is, some people about there are two types of wills. We have here that I mentioned. So Texas, we have the holographic will and the typewritten will, the formal will. So let's say typewritten will, formal will yung ginawa mo. It's witnessed, it was notarized. Yeah. And then you change your mind. Some people and I've seen this happening. I've seen wills that are being probated na ang ginagawa nila, they cross it out. Oh, they cross out the name of the person on doon sa will nila, and then they write another name on top of it. Don't do that, please. You cannot change your will by doing that. It's not effective. It will not be recognized. Kung ano yung sinulat mo doon, it's like as if it's not there. So kung ano yung kinross out mo, siya pa rin yung siya pa rin yung nandoon. Because that's not how you change your will. So, and how? So the question is how. So first one, we have two here, two ways. First one is codicil. So these are texts that sometimes we call codicil supplementary will. That means you create another document but that document, you put there your changes, kung ano yung mga gusto mong palitan na provisions doon sa will mo na nauna, or gusto mong idagdag, ilalagay mo doon. But that codicil it itself is a will. That codicil is a will in itself. That means it has to be you have to have two witnesses again, and it has to be notarized, and it could be probated independently, or kung na-invalidate man yung una mong will, the codicil will be your last will. So that's why it has to comply with the requirements of the law also. Now the other way of changing it is just completely making a new will, and then put in that new will that you are revoking any old wills that you've done in the past. Kasi that new will supersede or revoke the previous wills that you have created. So especially kapag you have a lot of changes that you want to put into your sa will mo, you want to make into your make in your will, there's a lot of changes you want to do. It would be better for you to just create a new one than just make codicils. Sometimes yung iba may apat na codicils sila kasi bago na naman yung isip nila, ganun. So you have to probate all of them. Kailangan you provide those codicils sa court during probate. So mas maganda lang kung nagbago-bago na isip mo, apat na yung codicils mo, apat na yung supplementary wills mo apart from the original one, gumawa ka na lang ng bago para hindi complicated. Yan ganun doon. All right, so that is about it. We talk about what exactly is a will, who can make a will, and what are the types of the will in general. Also, we talk about what should you include and not include in a will, and also what to do when you want to change your will. So those are very important knowledge, legal knowledge that you should have at least. Now, if you're not from Texas, definitely I advise you to consult an attorney in your jurisdiction, so you will get the correct information and you will be guided correctly, and make sure that your will is enforceable in your jurisdiction. All right. Ayan, so maraming salamat. Before we go, I just like to share, that malapit na ang September. Meron kasi kaming big event nitong September 4. We are having Fiesta ko sa Texas here in the state of, in the state of Texas, in Houston. Ayan. So, I'd like to share with you yung, yan. So, actually, 3 weeks na lang. Actually, less than na lang 3 weeks. 2 weeks na lang siguro yan because today is Friday already. So, September 4, we will have our Fiesta Costa, Texas, dito sa Bay City Event Center. So if you're in the area, even if you're in San Antonio area or Dallas, come join us. This is a whole day event. You can also be a sponsor. You can be a food or non-food vendor, and we'll have some and a lot of entertainments. We have I as our guest performer. And of course, marami pang mga local artists tayo they will showcase their talents. And we also have Miss Fiesta Cosa Texas pageant. So, yeah, so I'm excited actually because I'm part of this event. I'm one of the organizers, being the chair of the Philippine American um, uh, PACC, Philippine American Chamber of Commerce here in Texas, Greater Houston region. I'm the region chair. I am actually one of the organizers of this event. And I know we put a lot of hard work here because we really wanted to be the best event of the year, diba? So we actually do this every year, but since pandemic, the last time we had it was 2019, and then we're back. So I'm excited. It's gonna be a whole day of fun activities, a lot of food to eat, and a lot of performers to watch. So, yes. All right. Okay. And again, maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga nanood at nakasama natin dito sa live show. I'd like to say thank you to Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy and Legal Design Law Firm na sila yung producers nitong show natin na ito. And of course, I'd like to say thank you to 𝘮𝘠𝘕𝘐𝑉𝐵𝐿𝐴𝑠𝑖N, the president of Roof Chamber Radio Pinoy. Ang Usapang of the Record is, like I said, it can be watched. You can join us a live show every Friday, 9 p.m. Central Time and 10 a.m. in the Philippines. Ayan. So, kaya at this point, I'll see you all next week sa isa na namang Usapang of the Record. This is Aileen. Have a great weekend, everyone. Make it worth it. Bye.